Good morning, it's today again. Welcome back to Joseph's Reserves. I'm Joseph and I store 20% of my income in the form of rare coins and precious metals. This week we saw another volatile close across all precious metals. Gold, silver, platinum, palladium, and even copper all move differently. And when you compare them side by side, it tells a much deeper story than just looking at the price. Today we're going to take a look at this week's close, but also the broader performance that we've seen over the last couple weeks. Because for stackers building a precious metals portfolio, relative performance between the metals often matters more than just the headline price. Congratulations to Daniel Santos for being the first comment in yesterday's video. Thank you for the support, and y'all go find Daniel down in the comments to start a conversation. Let's go ahead and take a look at where the metals closed this week. Gold closed at $5,174, which is a 2% drop from last week. Silver closed at $84.59, which is a 9.9% drop from last week. Platinum closed at $2,155, which is a 9.1% drop from last week. Palladium closed at $1,651, which is an 8.8% drop from last week. And copper closed at $5.79, a 4.7% drop from last week. And when we compare it to last week's closes, we can see where the money is starting to flow. Gold pulled back slightly, silver pulled back more sharply, platinum pulled back nearly as sharply as silver, palladium pulled back more than gold but not quite as much as platinum and silver, and copper pulled back but held almost as strong as gold. So on the surface, it looks like a broad pullback across the metals complex, but the real story shows up when we zoom out and look at the weekly closes for the past few months. I started tracking these weekly closes in mid-December, right after the big run-up of Black Friday in 2025. So we're going to take a look at what has happened since that mid-December close on December 19th of 2025 until today. Since mid-December, gold is up about 19%, silver is up about 26%, platinum is up roughly 7%, and palladium is actually down 6%, while copper is also up around 7%. And this tells us something very important. Silver has been the strongest performer over the year. Gold has also had a very strong performance, and the real laggers are platinum, palladium, and copper. And for people building a precious metals portfolio, these relationships matter. When one metal runs up much faster than another, it often creates a ratio opportunity. Silver outperforming gold by this margin means that the gold to silver ratio is compressing significantly this year. For stackers who accumulate both metals, that can be an opportunity to rebalance. Not necessarily selling everything, but by being thoughtful about which metal you prioritize adding to your stack. When silver runs ahead of gold, some stackers begin leaning towards gold for new purchases. When silver falls behind gold or gold starts to outperform silver, many stackers shift towards stacking silver. It's not about timing the market perfectly, it's just about watching these relative values. Another interesting development this year is the divergence between platinum and palladium. Palladium has been the weakest performer in this entire metals complex. Meanwhile, platinum has quietly moved higher. Historically, these two metals often trade similarly in industrial demand cycles, but right now the market is clearly favoring platinum over palladium. For stackers who diversify beyond gold and silver, this could be something to watch closely. Sometimes the metals that lag the most eventually become the ones that snap back the hardest. The big headline for stackers right now is still silver. A roughly 26% move since last December is extremely significant. Silver is known for its volatility, and when it moves, it often moves faster than gold. But the key question is whether this move is the start of a larger cycle or simply a strong rally inside of a broader trading range. Another thing worth noticing is how closely the metals complex tend to move together, or at least in the same direction. When gold moves strongly higher, silver often follows. Industrial metals like copper sometimes signal broader economic conditions that eventually affect the precious metals demand, especially those in the industrial market. So, even those stackers usually focus on gold and silver, keeping an eye on the entire metals complex helps us understand the bigger picture. Going forward, here are a few things I'm going to be watching closely. First, whether silver will continue to outperform gold. Second, whether platinum continues to separate itself from palladium. And third, whether copper maintains its upward momentum or begins to weaken. All three of those trends can tell us something about where the metals complex is headed next. For stackers, the key takeaway from this week is simple. Silver has often been leading the metals complex this year. Gold remains a strong store of value. Platinum is quietly improving, and while palladium has struggled, it might be positioning itself for something big soon, and copper continues to reflect the broader industrial cycle. When you track the metals relative to each other, instead of just watching the price, you start to see the bigger picture. And that bigger picture helps stackers make smarter, long-term decisions on how to build a precious metals portfolio. And that is really the goal of these weekly updates, just keeping an eye on the conditions of the metals market as we continue to build our reserves. And before I wrap it up, I want to remind everyone of the giveaway that's been happening this entire week. If you're not sure what I'm talking about, go back to last week's video to hear about the giveaway. Make sure you enter the giveaway and are on the live tonight on March 7th to see who wins that giveaway. Again, the live is tonight, March 7th at 7 p.m. Texas time. Make sure you go back and watch the giveaway video to see the rules for who can win, as well as how to participate. I just made my own line of coffee. Joseph's Reserves It's Today Again coffee. Most mornings aren't dramatic. They're quiet. You wake up, pour yourself a cup, and now you have a choice. Drift through the day or take hold of what's in front of you. That's really what this whole thing's about. Showing up, building good habits, staying disciplined in the small things. Whether that's stacking consistently, learning something new, or just being faithful with what you've been given. I put these words on every bag to remind myself first. Every morning is a gift. Not yesterday, not tomorrow, today. So take a breath, take a sip, and let's get to work. It's today again. You can now write me at Joseph's Reserves, 10160 Highway 242, Suite 800, number 401 in Conroe, Texas, zip code 77385. Make sure to include your information so I can write you back. If you like this video, make sure to go down and give it a thumbs up. Go down to the comments section for any questions or comments or to start a conversation with someone. Share the video with anyone you think might like it, and subscribe if you haven't already. But most of all, thank you so much for watching. And just remember, every ounce adds up. So no matter how small, just keep stacking.